Hello, goodbye, and hello again. Welcome back to Drifter Carbon and to another Minecraft texture pack review. Today we're taking a look at Sparkle Textures by Panascais or Panascais. Pancreas. Sparkle Textures by Pancreas. I think it's supposed to be Panascais or something along those lines. So the description says, it is 310 Minecraft coins, which is like one of the cheapest texture packs out there. That was what caught my eye to it, because it claims to have some pretty lofty features for such a cheap pack. Yeah, like there's packs out there that are only $1, and like 320 Minecraft coins is $2, so you know, pretty cheap. It's 9.3 megabytes, and it claims to be updated for 1.21. The description says Sparkle, the ultimate and most vibrant texture pack that delivers a stunning next level visual experience. Now, when you have to be very careful when you're writing descriptions for things that you don't oversell, because if this is not the most spectacular 5 out of 5 pack on the planet, then that feels like you're trying a little too hard with your sales pitch there. Updated for Turkey Childs 1.21. Beautiful atmosphere, animated foliage, love to see that, you know. Always nice when you have some nice blowing in the wind foliage. Player and mob animations, I'm interested in seeing what they're talking about with that. Because if this pack has like a completely different animation set for the player, then that's the kind of thing that you would expect from something a lot more expensive. Lots of texture variations, another highly sought after feature. Free updates forever, so they plan to continue updating this according to their description there. At least the notes just say that it was updated recently for Tricky Trials. We'll scroll down. Here's what the avatars look like. There's a couple of pages of them. There's actually one more skin included with this pack than you can see here, and I'll explain that when we get into the world. But I'm not too fond of the general aesthetic of these avatars, but it's not that they're poorly made necessarily. I would not personally use any of these, but maybe you see one here that you think is fun. And I think that's everything, so let's go ahead and jump on in. If you've not seen one of these videos before, I show off all the textures and then give my final thoughts, you know. All right, so let's go ahead and jump on in. Okay, here we are in the texture pack review world, and you might be thinking to yourself, Carbon, what's going on with your avatar? Where are your where's your long red hair and your lab coat and stuff? And it's like, yeah, this texture pack replaces your custom character creator avatar with this guy. For some reason, there's no way to change this other than applying a actual full skin, because skins seem to still work. But any character that you've created in Minecraft's avatar creation engine with pieces, you know, that's going to be replaced with this avatar for some reason, which is kind of a serious problem, and like that's probably going to keep me from wanting to play with this pack personally. But we're going to review it anyway. We're going to try and give it its day in the sun. So there are animations here. The walk cycle is different. You can see that your avatar walks around there. When you jump, there's a little jump animation. Crouching looks slightly different. Hold on, I'm trying to fly. There we go. When you fall down, you do... Hold on, try to do that from a different angle. You do a little roll, which is interesting. So there are player animations in this pack. So that's one of the things that they advertise there. We'll go ahead and switch back to first person here. Hold on. First person, thank you. And we'll look at things that grow. So you can already see right off the bat that there's leaves blowing in the wind there. It's kind of a simple animation, but it is an animation. And there are variations within the grass texture. I'm not a fan of the grass texture because it's just squares, and that's not really what I go for. But you know, they did have variations there. The Pale Garden stuff is too new, but the rest of the stuff should be custom. You can see all the baby trees there. Here's the mushrooms. Some of this stuff in the pack looks similar to the vanilla texture pack, so I guess they're kind of going for that vanilla-esque theme. The pitcher plant looks very similar. Like when I first saw this, I thought that maybe it hadn't been updated to the 1.21, but apparently it has. It just some of the newer stuff doesn't look wildly different. More things blowing in the wind there. There's the flowers, the cactus, some fun foliage, and there's the chorus plant. Like I said, Pale Garden's too new. Fly over this way. Here's the giant mushrooms. Here's logs and planks. I would have liked to have seen them do a little bit more to make the logs really like stand out from vanilla a little bit. Because if you're buying a texture pack, you probably want to mix things up a little more than that. So it's kind of like I don't want to say they traced the designs. It's more that they're just very similar. Here's the planks. There you go. The planks don't look terrible. Are there variations on the plank texture? I'm not seeing differences there. That all looks like the same texture. Here is dirt, sand, gravel, and moss. Again, we are having like this is a texture pack that just makes heavy use of here are some squares, but at least I mean it's dirt. It doesn't have to be too terribly exciting. Suspicious sand and suspicious gravel. You can tell the difference between suspicious and non-suspicious. It's subtle, but it's there. There's the sandstone. Not very detailed sandstone there. Here's stone and stuff. So I think you would have a easy enough time telling, which of these is which, but and it looks okay. Is there variation on this as well? All the stone looks the same. Here's the end stone. I guess there are actually some differences. They're very subtle. I feel like overall, a lot of the blocks that have variations, they did not do much to make them different from each other, which I feel kind of defeats the purpose of even having variations, to not have some stuff that like makes it more exciting. Here's polished stone, cobblestone. Here's the bricks. I mean, yeah, that you could build with these bricks, stone, brick blocks, etc. I don't think there's variations on the brick texture. Yeah, there's some things here that are different or interesting, so that's fun. Stone block, is there any difference here? Those look the same, right? Yeah, those look the same. There's no variations there. They did say lots of variations, but I'm not seeing a lot. Here's the glass. Pretty easy to see through the glass. Didn't do anything too terribly wild. Yeah. So the wool, concrete powder, concrete is basically just one solid color in this pack. Terracotta, glazed terracotta. Yeah, they have some different ones. Here's some interesting ones here. So, they kind of, I'm not overly fond of the art style that they've gone with the glazed terracotta to some extent. Like I feel like, I don't know. I thought that this was going to be, I guess it's partially my fault for thinking this was going to be a higher resolution texture pack, I guess. But I don't know. That may just be my faulty memory. Here's the ore. You can tell the difference between the ore and the stone there. It will stand out when you're mining, so that's plenty usable. There are variations on the ore, but it looks mostly like no, I guess they are different. Okay, yeah. So there's different ores, different variations on the ore there. Nether ore, deep slate ore, amethyst, random lonely magma block. It is animated. Just kind of the lava's flowing in the cracks there. The sponge, you can tell the difference between the wet and the dry. My color blindness kind of betrays me a little bit, so I have a harder time with that, but I can tell that one is darker than the other. Here's torches. We have a animated lantern there. The bulbs look very similar to vanilla. There's a few things in this pack that look very similar to vanilla. Miscellaneous light sources. We do have an animation here. Always nice to see, even if it's simple. Just one carved jack-o'-lantern face. Here's signs. I feel these signs are pretty readable. I don't think you're gonna have a problem using these signs. This one might be a little harder from some distances if you typed all the way down the sign, but I think that's fine. Here's hanging signs. I do have the brightness turned up on my screen, so it may look darker in the video. Monster spawner, but it looks fine in the when I'm using it. Fences and gates. Pretty standard stuff with the fences and gates. There's the walls in the background there. They look fine. There's differences between the square patterns. They didn't just like color the squares or whatever. They're different squares. They're just very similar to each other. Tried kelp block, diamond, lapis, gold, emerald, and redstone blocks. These are fine, but they're kind of low detail. Iron block, rock, copper, gold, and iron. Here's a lodestone, prismarine, the slime block, honey. There's the hay bale, bone block. Here's quartz. Yeah, you know, usable quartz, but not terribly different from vanilla. That one's kind of different, actually, but here's the copper. All of this is custom, but it almost looks like the more recent copper pieces are kind of a different art style from the other ones. This is supposed to be custom too, because it was updated for Turkey Trials. So, you know, there's the ladder. Not overly fond of the ladder. Here's doors. Looks like we have another pack here that they're just the vanilla doors, but with maybe a little more detail or like some shadows. So kind of average doors. Here's trapdoors, same story. Didn't do anything wildly different with the trapdoors. Here's bookshelves. So this is the best example of variations that I've seen in this pack. There's several different bookshelves here, and that's one I always like to see. I always prefer when there's nice different bookshelves. Here's what the book and the lectern looks like. That's the enchanting table. Here's the beds. Ooh, I do not like these beds. There's just one pattern. The color has just been changed. And there's just kind of this upside down L and some squares. Not fond of that at all. Crafting tables and villager job tables. These are incredibly similar to vanilla. Crafter, that's too new, I think. Furnaces, this one looks different. That looks the smoker looks different from vanilla. The other two are pretty similar to vanilla. Anvil and grindstone, you can tell how damaged your anvil is. Here's cauldrons, there's lava, there's potion, that's water. The water is very deep blue in this pack. Chests, you can tell which one is trapped. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a problem. I should make a note of that. It looks like the texture for the in chest there is like offset. Like we've got some dead pixels on the side there. Or like it's bleeding over from the texture next over. Or something has gone horribly wrong here. It's like that's offset too. Yeah, this is a broken texture. They need to fix that. That's a problem. The barrel, jukebox and note block. Pretty standard stuff, you know, didn't really change that much. They just moved a few pixels around or whatever. Empty armor stand, beacon, bell, iron bars. That's what the beam from the beacon just has a couple stray pixels in it. Here's paintings. Okay. This is, these are one of the best parts of the pack so far, I would say. Some nice pixel art here. See where was this level of detail and creativity in some of the rest of the blocks, right? Like, this is great. I wish that they had done more stuff like this. Those are fun. Item frames. Here's the rails. You can definitely tell the difference between the special rails. Nothing too crazy with the mine carts or things in mine carts. TNT looks pretty much like TNT looks in vanilla. There's Greg. Here's redstone stuff. Didn't do anything too wildly different with the redstone stuff either. Here's pottery. Okay, the pottery looks nice. I think they did a pretty decent job on that. You know, nothing too crazy, but it looks good. Scaffolding. Here's the banners. They just kind of have a little thin border around them. Nothing too different about the boats. Pretty standard stuff. There's the tough. I think only one of these is custom. Trial spawner, or maybe they're just very similar to default. Here's the vault. One of the newest blocks in this pack. But didn't do anything wild with it either. Resin is too new. There's the target. Here's the mob heads. There's the player head. We are the default player avatar for this pack. Yeah, we will see the mobs here in a minute. The dragon egg. Here's dripstone. There's, well, let's see if we can see a drip. There it goes. That's what the drip looks like. Lightning rod, very low detailed lightning rod there. Heavy core, conduit, TNT. Those all look pretty standard. Let's look at the aquatic stuff. The sea pickles. Yeah, and the seagrass. It is animated, the kelp. Here's the different dead coral and the live coral. And last but not least, there is the lily pad. So yeah, I'd say the blocks in this pack are kind of average. I honestly don't think that I would pick this pack's block textures over vanilla personally, but you know, that's just my opinion. Let's go ahead and jump back. Okay, also, I wanted to show that I forgot to do this earlier. The attack animation seems to be the same. Same for the using a tool animation. If they changed it, it's very subtle. Same thing in first person. Hold on, pull up my inventory here. If I press the right button, it might help. Grab this back into my hand and set off a firework. Nothing crazy with that. Snowball, nothing crazy with that. Wind charge looks pretty much the same as vanilla. And here's the map. Nothing unusual about that either. So let's look at armor. So these are the armor, the armor designs in this pack. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these personally. I don't particularly like the look of these swords either. Just kind of a little bland. I would have liked something a little more special. I mean, the netherite looks different, but I would have liked something that pops a little more and stands out as being extra interesting with a pack that's, you know, called Sparkle and that has all of these other great features. Here's the elytra and the shield. I just think that maybe this pack could use with a little stronger theme, but I guess it's kind of too late to change that because they'd have to change way too much. Here's armor trims. These are amethyst armor trims on iron armor. Looks like these are just pretty much what you'd expect, I guess. They're very, some of them are very subtle against the coloration of the armor there. I guess these are, I think these are custom. Maybe, but nothing too exciting. Here's the items, starting with the weapons and armor. Oh yeah. This is what the tools look like in 3D as well. I kind of breezed past that because I was looking at the armor trims. I really do not like these tools. I'm sorry. That's, you know, that's one of my least favorite things about this pack is just something about these tools that bothers me. I don't think I would enjoy using these. So here's the rest of the handheld items. There's the respawn compass and the regular compass and the clock. Those all just look vanilla. Horn, horse armor. Some of these things look like they just took the regular icon from Minecraft and just like gave it a little more shading. Here's the potions. There is like there's different potions here, but they're very similar to each other. They're just I guess this one's more different than the others, but that at least has some like bubbles around it or something for some reason, or sparkles, I guess. Here's the food. Yeah, I mean, it's easy enough to tell what most of these things are supposed to be, right? But yeah, I guess the pixel art on the items is not really doing much for me either. But, you know, I guess it's different enough. I don't know, not really. I prefer my texture packs to be, even if it's similar to vanilla, I prefer it to have kind of a little more something going for it. So yeah, let's go check out the mobs. Here's what a bench or a couch would look like. There's a water cooler. Here's the nether portal. There you go. It is a swirly. Let's look at the mobs. Here's the chicken. Do we have another texture pack with the default mobs? I'm with the default farm animals. I do believe so. And there's the bee. Here is the sheep. The sheep definitely looks different. See, the animals have a different. So those are the default farm animals, because the animals mostly have these big eyes. Here's the wolf and wolf armor. Yeah, I do not like what they've done with the faces on these mobs. There's the polar bear. Very low detail, just kind of has spots. The axolotl. Not a fan of that axolotl. Here is the cat. Everything has these same big eyes, just copied and pasted onto their faces. At least the cats have like different eye colors and stuff, so at least they did some things slightly different from each other. The mushroom looks default. There's the bat. Is the bat even custom? Just looks like the default bat. Whether that's a flaw or just a design choice, it's always difficult to tell. Here's the different parrots. Pretty default looking parrots. Here's the rabbit and the llamas. We will fly around and look at the llamas. They all seem to be facing away from me today. There you go. I mean, they've got those same eyes. Here are the horses. And the horses in horse armor. So I guess it looks like the horses have a different walking animation. So like they said, there are some things that are different, like the walking patterns. You know, some of the animations are different. There's the donkey and the mule. Here's the skeleton horse. And the zombie horse. Some of this stuff is like they've taken the way that the mob looks in the vanilla texture pack and just reduced some of its detail. Here's the tropical fish. And the cod. Does it have a more fluid swimming animation than usual? Pufferfish. That's what the pufferfish look like. Pretty much what you'd expect from this pack. Here are the salmon. Yes, I pronounced it that way on purpose. Maybe I'll pronounce it wrong a different way this time. Here are the salmon. The salmon. There you go. Just to mix things up. Here's the dolphin. It's got, you know, a little bit more color variation on its skin there. Here's the sea turtle. The panda. I mean, not a terrible looking panda or anything. Here's the fox. Not entirely sure that, well, okay, the creeper at least looks different from the regular creeper. I'm not sure it's an improvement. It does have a nice little walk cycle. So they're, you know, they deserve some credit for bothering to animate things uniquely, but let's find an Enderman. They are all out here getting farther and farther away from me as time goes by. Not much going on with the Enderman. Silverfish. Here's the skeletons. And the wither skeleton. And the stray. They just kind of have blank expressions on their faces. I guess they got like stripes. So I'm not sure a skull should have stripes, but the ender skeleton, I'm sorry, wither skeleton. There is no ender skeleton. Wither skeleton has stripes on its skull at least. The slime. The spider and cave spider look different from default at least. They have a totally different thing going on there. They're kind of spotted-y. Here's the zombie. Okay, the zombie has more going on. Like it's got part of its skull missing. Got like brain hanging out and a goofy expression on its face. That's probably the best mob we've seen in this pack so far. Here's the bogged. And the husk. There you go. The husk has a like facial hair. Here's the drowned. Funny expression on his face too. Squid and glow squid. The squid just has a normal face on its body there. There's the glow squid. Is there more than one squid? No. Okay, just making sure. Here's the witch. So it doesn't look like there's variations on mobs, just on blocks, and there were very few variations on blocks too. Guardian and Elder Guardian. Yeah, I mean, that's a Guardian and an Elder Guardian. Let's spawn in an Endermite. Oh, it's kind of a different color than usual, and it has eyes. Here's the Magma Cube. Looks default. The Strider. Okay, you know, the Strider's kind of cute. And it has a different expression when it's in the lava. Looks happier when it's in the lava. The Zoglin, zombified Hoglin. Definitely zombified. Here's the zombie Piglin and zombie Piglin Brute. The goat. The axolotl. Not much going on with the axolotl. Here's the allay. Not much going on with the allay. There's the frog. The frog seems to have different eyes. Gonna have to spawn in a wandering trader. Get out your llamas. There you go. That's what the wandering trader looks like. Pretty much close to default. There's the camel. So I, you know, the animations are simple, but they're fluid enough. That's the blaze. I couldn't even tell that I was looking at its face for a second there, but that's the blaze. Here is the ghast. Hold on, face over this way, the ghast. Or we're seeing it from different angles there. Didn't really do anything special with the ghast. The happy ghast stuff is way too new, of course. Here's the shulker. They've just got those same weird eyes that I don't particularly like. Here's the vindicator and evoker. They look pretty standard. The evoker's robe there is kind of more vibrant than usual. Here are the villagers. Looks like there's one villager face with different outfits. He's kind of giving he's looking off to the side, giving us the side eye. Here's the zombie villager. Yeah. Look like zombified villagers. They're just kind of giving us the stink eye, similar to the side eye that the villager is giving us. There is the phantom and the pillager. Yep, I mean that's a pillager. And the ravager, oh, I kind of like his little walk cycle, you know. I've said that about several of the mobs now, but you know, that's one of the best parts of the pack is the fact that the animations are different. Here's the iron golem. Okay, yeah, I'd say that the iron golem is one of the best mobs in the pack, and you can tell how damaged he is. There are some mobs that are more stylized and wildly different and not just you know, don't have the same copy and pasted eyeball. Snow golem and snow golem with pumpkin carved off. Nothing special there. Here's the sniffer. Okay, so we have a pretty vibrant sniffer here. Nice. I wish that all of the mobs in the pack were as interesting and exciting as the Sniffer and Iron Golem. I'd say those are definitely the strong suit of the pack. Here's the Armadillo, which is just default. The Warden. Very warty Warden. Like he's got barnacles growing on him or something. Interesting. And he does have a little animation on his heart. Here's the Breeze. Didn't do anything wildly different with the Breeze. And here is the Wither. Looks very similar to the Wither skeleton that we saw before. So, you know, nothing too exciting with that. And, of course, the creaking is too new. All right, well, you know, I think the mobs are okay. They're not terribly exciting, most of them. And I feel like I'm not a big fan of the aesthetic choices that they made, but, you know, let's go check out the Nether. Here we are in the Nether. We won't spend too long here. Here's what the Hoglin looks like. You're blocking my view of your brother there, buddy. So that's what the Hoglin looks like. They've got that weird eye. There's the respawn anchor. Did I show off? Did I show off the Nether portal? I think I did. It's just kind of a swirly. Here's the piglins. Face over this way, guys. Come on, be reasonable. Looks like there's just one piglin face. So normally this piglin has like a scratch over his eye, or I mean like a scar, or he's missing an eye, or he has an eye patch. In different packs do it different ways, but this one looks like all that's different about them is their outfits, but at least the outfits are different. The Nether looks very similar to vanilla, just overall. Did not do anything terribly wild with the Nether either. There's the Ghast again. We already got a good look at him earlier. Fly over this way real quick and see the other biome, and then we'll go check out the end, or the Stronghold Below template world, I should say, and then the end. There you go. That's what the trees look like in this biome. Okay, let's go check it out. Let's go on to the next section. Okay, here we are in the Stronghold Below template world. If you'd like to create a world very similar to this one with the stronghold right about here, when you're creating a new world, next to where you would input a custom seed, there's a button for templates. This one is called Stronghold Below. So the cold pig and cold cow look default because the normal cow and normal pig look default, and it's not been updated that recently. Here's a villager house. See what some of the villager houses look like. Did I look at the composter before? Nothing terribly exciting about it, but you know, I thought I'd show it off since I probably skipped over it when we were in the other world earlier. Fly over this way, look at a cobweb. Pretty standard cobweb. Pretty generic cobweb. Here's what a ruined portal looks like. You can see that the crying obsidian looks totally different from the regular obsidian. Not sure I like that, personally. That's kind of a little weird, but, you know, whatever. Let's fly on back, and then we'll enter the stronghold. Wish there was a way to fly even faster. Here we go. Jump down into the stronghold. I missed. There we go. Here's what the stronghold looks like. I mean, this, like, more so than anywhere else in the pack, this just looks vanilla to me. Like, there's differences and stuff, but it's very, very similar to vanilla. Throw a bottle of enchanting. That's what those swirlies look like. Drink a potion of strength to look at these swirlies. You can see the EXP orbs there as well. Blowing the goat horn is unchanged. Reloading the crossbow. That's what a weapon looks like in your hand. And we will go ahead and stick this in here. End portal. We've seen very similar end portals before. And jump into the end. Kind of a purpley bluey end. Oh, there's actually a fog in the end. A really strong fog in the end in this texture pack. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Endermen. They just kind of have like they're mostly they're like two colors with except for the eyes, and they just have kind of like they scribbled on them with a paintbrush and paint or whatever. Fly over here. Or the end crystal. There you go. That's what that looks like. And we actually have a pretty cool Ender Dragon in this pack. That's probably the best mob in the whole pack, actually. Like, that's the most different of any of them, right? And nice smooth animations for the most part, and it's pretty cool. This they you know, they paid the end a decent level of respect, I would say. So what are my final thoughts on this pack? I think this pack is, you know, I mean, the most important note to make with this pack is that it was one of the cheapest packs. It's only like a couple of bucks or something. It's 310 Minecraft coins. So, you know, I mean, I'm going to try and frame the rest of my review around that fact. But as far as the mobs go, no, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. The blocks. So I thought the blocks were kind of average quality. The paintings were nice. There were some nice pixel art on the paintings. And there were variants, but a lot of the blocks, there were only a handful of blocks that had variants, and the ones that did were, there was not a huge difference between most of them. The bookcase was really the only one that jumped out at me as being easy to tell the difference between the different blocks. I mean, the different variants. And the foliage, the animated foliage was nice. I think they did a good job on that. As far as items go, I thought the armor was kind of boring, or kind of a little bland. Like, I think they could have done more to make it pop and make the pack stand out in that respect. I thought that the tools were pretty aesthetically unpleasing as well. Not a huge fan of the items in general. I thought that most of the items were a little too similar to vanilla. That makes them easy to identify, but I just think they could have done more with it. If they were to redesign an aspect of this pack, I would say top priority should go to maybe redoing the items. But you know, just it's a little too generic for my liking. As far as mobs go, I'm not a huge fan of the style of most of the mobs. And I don't really like what they've done with the eyes on a lot of them. But the sniffer and the golem were cool, and I think that the zombie was kind of fun. The things they did with that, where it's got like, you know, it's somebody's taking a bite out of its skull or whatever. There were custom animations on the different mobs, and that's nice. Of course, the UI, I don't remember whether I commented on the UI, but it is literally just default. They did not change the UI at all, that I can tell. And there were some problems with this pack. So the major problem is the custom character. Like, if you have a character that you built in the character creator, it's just going to be replaced with this guy. You know, I'm wearing armor right now, so it's a little more difficult to see him, but you can see him at the beginning of the video. And I think that's like a major problem that they should change. They should definitely make it to where you can have your own regular custom characters when using this pack, because that discourages me from wanting to use it. What else is wrong? So the end chest is kind of broken. The textures are offset. We've seen that happen once before with some block in one of the packs, but that they should update the pack in order to address that as well. I think I covered most of the problems that I discovered. So yeah, yeah, this texture pack, I think they did themselves a disservice by saying the ultimate and most vibrant texture pack that delivers a stunning next level visual experience. But you know, I mean, I guess you gotta try and put your best foot forward on your description and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I think that this pack would be like a 3.5 if it weren't for some of the issues that it has. Well, like I'm gonna give it like a 3 because I feel like if this pack was trying to compete with some of the more expensive packs that we've reviewed, then it would struggle because of its issues. But and just overall being a little too similar to vanilla in some aspects, and just I did not vibe with the aesthetic choices in several portions of the pack. But again, though, it is like 310 Minecraft coins, so I think there is an audience out there for whom this is going to be an easy pickup. Regardless, and you don't have to agree with my review score, of course. Comment down below what you thought of the pack. You know, what were your opinions on it? Certainly, and if you enjoyed this, then please do leave it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah, so I really hope that at some point in the future they update the pack and they get rid of the fact that they change your avatar. Like, that just feels so forced and so, you know, like that's bad. You shouldn't do that. If you're going to make a texture pack, please don't do that. That's losing them like at least 0.5 of a score there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, and share.